Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to today's event. I'm Jason Gumpert from MSDynamicsWorld.com, and we're here for a session all about the benefits of AP automation for Dynamics ERP across all roles. I'm joined today by two members of the Avid Exchange team, Henry Iams and Shannon Lawson. I'll let them give a little bit more in-depth introductions. But before we begin, I just want to do a bit of housekeeping. Please do know that you can ask questions at any point throughout the session using the Q&A block that you should see to the right of the main presentation area. There will also be a couple poll questions, so be on the lookout for those. We do want to try to keep the session a little bit interactive. You'll see those in just a few minutes starting to show up. So without any further delay, we're going to get things started, and I'm going to hand it off to Henry Iams. Henry.
Thanks, Jason. Well, you can see we have a male and a female, so this is Henry Iams. I'm the Vice President of Product Management at Avid Exchange. Prior to joining Avid Exchange about a year ago, I spent 15 years as lead analyst and founder of a research and consulting firm focused on payables automation called PayStream Advisors. The company's still around and publishes some great research. Some of the materials that you're seeing today are from the PayStream Research Vault, but you can access it through our website at avidexchange.com or through PayStream Advisors. And Shannon, tell us, and welcome, tell us about you a little bit.
Thanks, Henry. Hi everyone. My name is Shannon Lawson, and as you can see, my title is Solutions Consultant. I've been with Avid for a number of years, but before I moved to this side, I was on implementation, so our services as a project manager, so getting clients up and running. And naturally, sales wanted me to provide that kind of technical knowledge to this side. So I give a lot of the product demonstrations for our prospects.
Excellent. At Avid Exchange, we love it when folks who actually implemented the solution, as Shannon did for literally hundreds of companies, move into the communication side and share their experience, because she's been in the what I call the bowels of making accounts payable processing and automation work, and she knows all the pitfalls, and we're delighted to have her share her experiences here today. So our agenda over the next 45 minutes or so before we get into the rest of the Q&A, and as Jason mentioned, we are welcoming your questions at any time during today's session. We may break in and answer them. We're going to talk about the basics of what is AP automation. We're going to talk about some vision and strategy. What is it that you're trying to do to move paper-free in your finance operation? Certainly, it's probably beyond accounts payable, but accounts payable is a great place to start. So we're going to share some details on that. And then we're going to talk about some of the benefits that we see most of our clients enjoying. And Shannon is here to give us a live demo of the solution. I'm going to be sharing some materials of how you can go mobile with your AP automation. And then we'll do some polls and get more details with the questions and answers. So again, thanks for joining. So let's think about some common themes that things we have in our house. What do these three things have in common? Bar soap, ground coffee, and alkaline batteries. Can you guess? Well, it's not a trick. It turns out that they're all declining. And you scratch your head a little bit and you say, well, wait a minute. Why is bar soap going away? Well, people are using more body wash. And as we all know, the K-Cups have taken over our coffee rooms. I have at least a couple of them a day. I don't know about you, Shannon, but I'm a big fan of the Vermont coffee. And my second one, I love the decaf one, because otherwise I get too jittery. And mobile devices, right? We recharge things, and we've got a USB port practically in every place where we sit in our cars at home, because everything's rechargeable now. So hey, that's what's happened. Look at how big it is. Now the next question is, what does this have to do with AP automation? Well, guess what? Paper checks and invoices are going away, and probably you didn't even think about it in the same way. If I think about the way your business works today, you undoubtedly probably get 30 or 40% of your invoices that come in via email. Now, if I had said that 7 years ago, you would have said, well, very little comes in email, but it seems that we've defaulted to email as how we move invoices between your suppliers and you. But what haven't changed is you haven't changed how you process those. Because for most of you on the phone, you're spitting out those emails, you're printing them out, and you're keying them in. And for more sophisticated folks out there, you might be saving them to a shared drive at your company, but you're still dealing with the paper and you're not really getting at the problem. It's a long process, right? From our invoice to opening the mail, the purchase order, matching if you use POs, the routing of the mail, the coding, the approval, budget, and then it has to be loaded into your Microsoft's platform. And then, okay, now it's approved, and then I'm going to cut a check, and I'm going to file the invoice. And what am I going to do with that invoice? Well, I want to be able to put it in a file so I can find it. And yeah, there's that research thing. Here's the basics that you know and love, right? You take that, and this is the screen that you have to key it in. Well, AvidXchange has changed that. And this is what we want to share with you today, sort of how it works and why you might want to consider doing it differently. I'm going to give you a lot of case studies from our clients and from other research we've been doing about why this imperative is not just, well, getting rid of my bar soap at home is not imperative. This is imperative. So we are going through all these steps. At AvidXchange, if you look at where the X is, that's what we do. We basically, with AP automation, we open the mail for you. It sends to our post office box. Then we put it into our web-based system, which is 100% in the cloud. Let it be routed around your organization. No longer can you not tell where an invoice is. You'll be able to see exactly. It's waiting for Joe's signature. It's stuck in Bob's queue, and you can prompt them. The coding is done by you, but our processors get the data ready, as Shannon's going to show you, and key the information in so that you don't have to do the final coding. The coding gets reviewed by you, then it's approved by you, then back to AvidXchange land, we post it directly into your accounting system. I kind of think it's like automagic. Then we spit out checks. You have an 100% permanent archive where we don't destroy any of your invoices. We've got customers from 2001 that can still log into their system and see all the invoices that they have. Or you can download them to your own place if you want. But they're always available at AvidXchange. So you can do your research. We've just eliminated a lot of the big steps. So now that you understand basically what AvidXchange does, we want to talk about how it changes the way you do business and the opportunity it has to change your individual role to be more effective at your company. So we know a lot of the current state steps, right? You're doing the matching. You've got to route these invoices around. They need to be approved by different managers in your company. And the barriers here, prior to automation, is that you've got to use a system that is difficult to access from when you're not at the office. You've got to use checks that need to be physically signed by managers who are increasingly out of the office traveling or on job sites. And we know their job is not to sit around and pay invoices. They're doing business. So our job in finance is to make it as easy as possible. The future state, what our clients tell us, is that by automating this process, they streamline the business process. But what the accounting side of our want really loves is that we now have the ability to store and retrieve it anytime, anywhere, electronically, and we have 100% visibility. Now, the number one thing that our customers tell us that they love about moving to AP automation is improved visibility and control. While there's a lot of savings around the data entry and the time, as we're going to talk about, the extra benefit that they get by pulling the data, being able to run reports, and see where invoices are immediately when a customer or supplier calls. So how common is this call? You get from a supplier, hey, we sent you this invoice on January 15th. We haven't been paid. Where's the invoice? You look into your Dynamics system. Oh, wait, it's not even in here. Well, who did you send it to? Oh, we sent it to Bob. Okay, did you check with Bob? Well, Bob's not answering our emails. Well, why don't you call Bob? Future state, I can look into the AvidXchange system and see that it's in Bob's queue, or maybe it's not in Bob's queue. Maybe it's being disputed, or maybe it's waiting for Bob's boss to approve it. And so now I have better information to answer those inquiries in minutes instead of doing research, waiting emails back and forth until I finally get the answer. Now, let's connect this to a trend. So one trend we talked about was soap and batteries and coffee. Another big one that you may be feeling closer in your office, besides K-Cups, is that the young millennials, these accounting grads that we hire, they don't even know what paper is. Frankly, they grew up with an iPhone in their hands almost, right? So while us accounting folks who've been around for a while think that this is a good control process, for the younger millennials who are coming in, they don't get it. They're sort of like, well, why are you doing it that way? Because I could just run a report. And we'll talk more about why that is. But I'm going to talk about the cost. And then we're going to talk about here, I want to sort of highlight something that you see this checks going down. The CAGR, that stands for compound annual growth rate, is actually a compound annual decline rate. Checks are going down, and invoices being emailed is going up. Electronic payments going to supplier is going up. It's being replaced. So is it time now for you? Well, let's get into some of the reasons and the benefits of why you might want to consider moving deeper here. So before we do that, we want to hear from you. We want to know what's the biggest pain point you experience in your invoice workflow and approval process. Shannon, what do you think the answers are going to see? What do your clients tell you?
I think it's going to be either bottlenecks, which would be the kind of inefficiency in the process, things getting held up, or maybe lost invoices.
And we'll give it about another 5 seconds here for you to get your answer in, and then we'll start compiling the results.
Well, we know all of these are painful. That's why we selected this list. And so, I mean, we've got an army of happy folks who come to us and say, gosh, you can't believe how much this saved us in time. But there's, what is it? What do we see today, Jason? What are people telling us?
All right. A couple more seconds, and I'll be able to show those results.
Yeah. I'm sure you're all yelling, and we can't hear you. All right. So, Jason, you want to read the results for us?
So we have 38% who selected manual routing of invoices for approval. 25% was the second place for two different choices, manual data entry in inefficient process, and 25% for lost or missing invoices. And then a few people also said other.
All right. Well, let's see if we can answer those others. And guys, if you said other and we don't get to it, please ask us a question. It's real simple. Just type it in and we'll get to it before long. So manual routing. All right. Well, that's good. We're going to talk about manual routing. So Paystream did a poll, and as I mentioned, I was the lead analyst at Paystream Advisors for a long time. And that is the number one reason that your colleagues tell us. And it's just really related to that question that the supplier calls you, you don't know where it is. We feel in accounts payable like nobody loves us, right? They're always calling us and saying, where is the invoice? And we're like, hey, if you sent it to me, I would know, but you sent it to somebody else, so how am I supposed to know where it is? And you know what? For people that are accountants who, well, we like things that tick and tie and control. That's how we were taught, to foot the balance sheet and make it all tying together, but when we don't know, it makes us uncomfortable. It's amazing that we've lived with paper this long. Of course, the big second one that you all recognized was the manual data entry, is that we have highly trained people, and the average accounts payable specialist has been in an organization for 7 or 8 years, and they know the ins and outs of that company because they pay the bills. But here we are spending a lot of time, and I'm going to quantify that for you in a minute, doing the data entry. Well, just how much time is that, and what's that worth? And then a lot of you saying, yeah, we still get a lot of paper, and even if it comes in email, we still got to print it out, so it's still almost essentially paperless, or paper to us. It's not paperless. So this also adds up to other problems that we want you to think about. For many of you, your company is not Exxon, you're not Walmart, and you're not IBM. That means you don't have power over your suppliers. Walmart definitely has power over their suppliers. They can tell the suppliers what to do. In fact, in Walmart's case, if you're a supplier with them, you have to submit an invoice electronically through their portal. But then there's the rest of us. And so the suppliers don't really like the fact that it's manual either. And they've got to call and do inquiries and email and cajole, because to them, they don't really know what happened. They sent the invoice out, and well, they're hoping that money just shows up in their box 30 to 45 days later. And so what that means is, if they know they want to get collect fast, well, they're going to put people on the phone. And guess who they're going to call? They're going to call you, because you guys know that. So from the supplier's perspective, the poor data management is an issue, and late payments, and this inability to collaborate. Because remember the example I was talking about, Bob got the invoice, and he was disputing it, but he didn't tell the supplier, and so the supplier, until he called, didn't really even know that he was disputing it. And so we've just released something we're really excited about it. We call it the Avid Cash Flow Manager. And what that does is gives the supplier a view to it's kind of giving him an inside view of your accounting system, but only to see their information. So it's a third-party web-based application. It requires the supplier to authenticate themselves and log in, but it gives them access to their invoices, what we call the receivables. And it gives them an access of real-time payment status. Has this invoice been approved? And if they also want, they can get paid early on it. We manage the entire process. So we enroll your suppliers, and we've got a really good adoption of this thing. We've only had it up for a couple of weeks, and we've got well over 1,000 suppliers in there. And they're joining every day because for not only be able to see perhaps your invoices, but any other customer that's in the Avid Exchange system. So it's much more useful than a supplier portal that might have been bolted on to your existing accounting application, because now they can see many of their customers' details. What they tell us they love about it is visibility, the same thing you want. What we hear from the AP side is, hey, our inquiries are going down. There's less companies calling us because they go onto the portal, and that means they can then get paid faster. The other problem that is inherent in our paper-based process that we have today is that there's still a lot of fraud. Now, unless it's happened to you, you may not have even thought about it. But some of the fraud that's pretty common today is, well, there's a couple of them. One is they take a real check that was signed by authorized signers at your company and change the dollar amount and change the payee by lifting off the ink off the check and retyping onto the check. Seems kind of strange, but there was a whole movie made about this, starring Lee DiCaprio, called Catch Me If You Can. And this goes back a little bit of the ways, but the problem, of course, is that our checks are not secure, and they're easy to be edited. Of course, there's stolen check stock, which can happen. And a lot of the fraud, it turns out, has been perpetrated by many times inside. About a third of the fraud is done by an employee of the company. They get short on medical bills or get into some debt problems, and they just feel like they're going to borrow a little bit. Usually not sort of lifetime criminals as we think about them. Fraud can go away with the AvidXchange system because we print out all the checks and we use something called positive pay and positive payee, which verifies that the dollar amount and the obligor, the payee, is exactly as it was written. So that data is shared with the bank that we issue the checks on, and we reject checks that are made out to the wrong payee or the wrong dollar amount. There's been a lot of change, as you can imagine, in the payment landscape, like batteries and bar soap. ACH is still growing, and increasing here is the use of purchasing cards. Purchasing cards is a type of a credit card, we call a commercial or virtual card, used to pay the suppliers electronically in a way that's very convenient for them because they're able to take the payment as fast as possible. So check usage has been going down a lot, as you saw, but ACH has been going up and purchasing cards increasing quite a bit. That's what the big trend looks like. And so let's see how that impacts the specialists, the managers, controllers, and for you CFOs out there. And again, remember, if you have any questions, please type them in. We will take them. So we're just going to focus on the roles that are in the accounts payable department. There are many other roles inside of your organization, of course, that are touching the checks, approving the invoices. So Shannon, when you think about your controller customers, what would you say core themes on their mind about why they want to move forward with AP automation?
Well, I would say undoubtedly, although, like you said, all the roles are going to benefit, but typically AP is the one who is having to maintain the entire accounts payable department just to make sure everything is running efficiently, meaning, you know, paying those supplier invoices on time, making sure that they're holding their other, whether it's some kind of manager or whoever it is, making sure that they're approving their invoices timely. So having to track them down, having to, of course, like you mentioned, the manual data entry of those invoices day in and day out, digging through those filing cabinets. I mean, there's all kinds of challenges associated with that, and I'll definitely highlight during the demonstration the benefits of where they're going to gain those from our platform.
Oh, excellent. We definitely want to see that. You know, the controller, of course, he's got some core goals of what he's control, right? He's got internal controls, staffing, maintaining the efficiency. We got a lot of visibility challenges. We got way too much paper and spreadsheets. The controller, most recently I spoke to this guy, Pramod, the other day, controller of a realty company. He was talking about he's trying to do some forecasting, but he's burdened with a lot of AP issues. He said about 15% of his time, and he doesn't feel like that's really the highest value and best use of what he's doing every day, of working on the problems. He doesn't work on every invoice, but he works on the ones where there's some sort of escalation or issue, and it usually means he's got to pull back a paper receipt, look through documents. He doesn't really have any visibility to the process without doing a lot of manual work. The automation benefits here that solutions like AvidXchange provide are real-time dashboards and metrics for managing what's upcoming and improving his control of his disbursements, as we're going to see. The CFO, of course, is a little more removed, and while they don't generally, my favorite question was when was the last time the CFO came down to the AP department? Now, unless you work for a small company, they're probably not spending a lot of time in AP. But they care a lot about it because it's the cash outflow of the business. So they're working on controlling financial risk. They're thinking about the investors, the owners of the company, and a fast close cycle for your financial statements. So AP, when we're with our funky accrual process, right? We've got to estimate what invoices are still in the pipeline that we don't even have visibility to. That's an unknown quantity, but it kind of drives the CFO crazy. It's like, well, why can't we just have it all visible in one place? Automation means, as you could see the way we were showing it, that every invoice that comes into your company is immediately visible and reportable. It's no longer, I don't know if Bob received it or not. I can tell immediately the day he got it that he's got an invoice and I can start aging it. So, Miss Shannon, it's the moment everyone's been waiting for. Let's have a demo of the AvidXchange AP automation solution.
Sure thing. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here for you. All right, so actually before I go into this, I'm going to highlight one last slide that I think is important for you to tee up, to give you that 30,000 foot overview before we dive in. I did see a question, Melissa, this is going to answer your question. So what you're looking at is what are the different ways that we receive invoices from your suppliers going forward? So we mentioned that a majority of them are coming in through email and mail today. So what we do as a service, so you'll find that AvidXchange is not just a software company. We are kind of 60% service-oriented, meaning dedicated employees that are doing this, and then we have about 40% where you're utilizing the software. So with the paper, what we do is we basically send a welcome letter to your suppliers letting them know of the change of location, and we give you a P.O. box. It's a designated P.O. box, so they can mail them there. And we gather them twice daily and scan them into the system for you. So to answer your question, Melissa, if you still want to receive the paper, absolutely, you guys can just kind of upload it into the portal yourself. If there are any emailed invoices, which we hope there are, actually about 70% run through our system today electronically. Again, we give you a designated email address, and so you guys could just forward them right on over if they still came to you electronically. So you guys can still be in control with what's coming inbound, or you can kind of grant that to us to be able to take the paper for you. That's our goal really, is to get rid of your paper, right? So once we receive the invoices, kind of the next service level is this extraction piece. What we're doing is we're pulling off all the header pertinent detail fields like the supplier, the entity, the invoice number, all of that. And we go ahead and pre-populate it for you, and you'll see that within the invoice when I get into the software. When we pull off that detail, it's going to kick off an approval path that you've already designated during your setup. So during implementation, that's kind of what we do, is we work with you on what are your different approval scenarios. Example, if it's a utility bill, who does it need to go to? Maybe it goes to a faster approval because they are so timely. You know, maybe for a legal bill, it needs to go to these 3 people. So when that invoice gets delivered to that person in this last step, they're going to get a notification through email that they have something to approve. Now, they're not going to get bombarded by, hundreds of emails. You can kind of pick and choose your subscription on when you want to receive those. All right. So that was, again, the 50,000 overview of how we're receiving those. So what I'm going to show you now is when that invoice is delivered to that person, what does their view look like? So when your AP team or controller or whoever it is logs in, what do they see? So we are 100% cloud-based. So as I'm logging in here, keep in mind, and this is what Henry's going to show you, is you can access this through any number of devices, smartphone, tablet, iPhone, desktop, laptop. So if you're traveling on the go, no excuses, your invoices can still be approved and your payments can still run through. Another added benefit with our software is that you can have as many users in here that you need. So even if there's maybe someone that comes in just on the fly, maybe once every couple months, they could still log in and still be able to review your invoices. So very ease of use. Now from a security standpoint, we're going to set up kind of, maybe for Marie here, what can she access, what can she do, what she can't do, what can she edit. So everyone's view could look a little bit different. So keep in mind that you can have ease that, maybe the property manager A can only see these 5 invoices, but property manager B can see these 10. All right, so when you log in here, I'm going to go ahead and click into an invoice. You can see this is just my pending queue. I have 16 invoices awaiting my approval. So let's just go ahead and click into one. And there's really 3 main sections here. So you have all your header information around that invoice. Again, this is everything that we populated for you, invoice number, amount, dates, and we ensure 99% accuracy with this. So your team should not be having to adjust this, but you certainly can if needed. On the right here is the invoice image. So you would see that as far as if it was 450 pages front and back, you'd be able to see all of that detail right there for you. On the bottom here, this is where you're going to code. So you might be asking yourself, well, how do I code an invoice? Whenever we give these demonstrations, it seems like that's really kind of the #1 piece that people care about is, well, how do I code my invoice? So what we're going to do here is basically customize for your accounting system. So I know this one specific today is for Microsoft. However, we work with hundreds of accounting systems. Everyone has their fields a little bit different, and that's okay. So, for example, if it's entity, if it's property, branch, department, if it's GL code, so all of this is going to be customized. So your team, it should look very familiar to them. Now, just to show you, if I just wanted to come in and code this, I can start typing the numeric value or the description, and it'll filter down for me. So if I know rent versus the number, I can start typing that. So rather than having to hand key this on or hand write this on an invoice, I now just key it on electronically. So yes, there is change management when moving from a paper-based environment to now an online platform, but it's very user-friendly. You'll see that as I go through. It's very easy to learn and train, and we take care of training your folks. So now, with coding, if you want to split that invoice, so maybe you want to split it over a number of, we call them allocations or lines, you can absolutely do that. You can have as many different lines here as you need. We give you some really neat coding tools to help with coding. So, for example, this may sound familiar. If you already have defaults, meaning maybe for a utility vendor, I use this code every time, we can have those populate here for you as well. The system is smart, so it'll actually remember how an invoice was coded last, which is definitely a fan favorite. Clients love that because it saves them time with coding. So really here, and I loved how Henry said this, where you're just really reviewing what's already populated and then moving it on for approval. Timely, quick approval. So we, as an average, we cut this down to about a 3-day process, meaning like we receive the invoice, you're getting fully approved into your accounting system and paid 3 days. That's kind of the average. So you can start thinking and gathering kind of the numbers around the time savings. Now the rest of the tabs here, so we talked about receiving the invoice, pushing that to a user on your side, whether that's AP first to code it, someone else to then approve it and review. As you're going through, this is now your online filing cabinet. So all of that research that Henry mentioned, everything is going to be within our platform that you have access to 24/7. So at any point in time, if you need to come in and review something, you can. So if you want to attach, let's say, backup, supporting documentation, receipts, pictures, contracts, Excel spreadsheets, lien waivers, scope of work, anything that you can think of, you can attach here. And we're able to capture full conversation logs between your users. So they're able to comment back and forth, getting an answer quick. You can easily see as soon as you log in here that there's a comment waiting. And of course, that is tracked in the audit trail. So be careful what you say here because it will be here forever. But, let's say that I wanted to dispute this invoice. You're going to know why you're disputing it with the supplier because you have that information right here within this comment section. So the workflow tab. So earlier we talked about how the kind of the challenges that AP is facing with tracking down invoices. Questions like, Where's that invoice? Why haven't I seen that invoice? How long has Bill had it? Is it lost? All of that essentially goes away. So we're eliminating those questions with this workflow tab. This gives you visibility into where the invoice is currently. So you can see it's highlighted currently with Marie. I know it's already been with Bob. I know that it's going to skip Jim because this invoice is not $5,000. So we are able, our workflow is very flexible. So you can incorporate dollar amount thresholds. It's really built for you, not the other way around. So the idea is that once an invoice gets to this user, by no means does that mean that she can't reroute it. So Marie has access to send it over to someone on a one-time basis. So if she wants to get in another second set of eyes here, you can quickly assign people on the fly. You can reassign the entire path itself. So again, very flexible. And I mentioned the audit trail. So as your users are going through, they're coding, editing, approving, commenting, you'll see all of that within this history tab. So the moment we receive the invoice to the moment that it's sent into Microsoft and paid, you'll see all of that detail here. So if you're thinking about audit season, a lot of our clients will grant view-only access to their auditors. So they can come in here and basically poke around and have all of that data that they need at their fingertips rather than you having to spend hours sometimes, from what I hear, putting all of that information together around your invoices. So you have the full audit history, and guess what? It's reportable. So everything in the system is fully reportable here. So again, with the controller and all of the metrics and kind of data they have. So once the invoice has been fully approved and coded, so it can't even get to this step until that happens, they're now ready to send that into your accounting system, so Microsoft Dynamics. So what happens is that it's basically a batch. So it's an empty file folder that's housing your invoices. So what's going to happen is your invoice is fully approved. It's going to flow into this batch, and whether that's daily, nightly, weekly, you can choose how often you want to do this. But all your team is having to do is basically close that batch out, and then through our seamless integration, all of that invoice detail is going to flow into your AP module of Microsoft. So it's going to include things like all the header detail, all of the coding and expenses, even a link to that image, so that way you can view the PDF right within your accounting system. So you don't necessarily have to come back here to view it. So it's very easy to use, and what's nice about that too is Microsoft's going to validate kind of what's coming in. So another layer of kind of fraud protection is it's going to say, wait, this supplier I don't recognize, or you know, this code I don't recognize. So you can have peace of mind that everything is flowing in when you want and how you want. So that's essentially how your bills will eventually get into Microsoft through, again, what's called an integration. Now, before I go into the payment piece of how our team is paying your invoices, I did want to show you how to report or search for your invoices. So what you're looking at here is basically a custom report writer. This is another fan favorite because at any point in time, you again have visibility into where your invoices are at all times. So I can come in and say, I want to see everything that's currently sitting out there, because you can set timers on folks. So you can really hold them accountable and report on that. When you search for your invoices, basically you can come in and I can export this data right here, or I can create a custom PDF report. So how fast did I just pull this up to say, I want copies of those bills? So within 10, 20 seconds, you have access to pull the images, all the detail around that, the audit trail, and even how it was paid and when. Okay. Now, within our system as well, just kind of included in the whole package, is our entire reports list. So we have hundreds of reports that we've added to the last 17 years that your team will have access to. Everything from metrics around, you know, where do my bottlenecks lie, or what bills have I not received in the last 30 days? what's truly accrued for. So we have, accrual in a paper-based world is not until it isn't entered into your accounting system do you know it's accrued for. Well, here, it's accrued the moment we receive that invoice. So you have access to all of these reports, again, right at your fingertips 24/7. Now, last piece before we're coming up on our time here, but the payments. So we talked through how those invoices are eventually entered into Microsoft Dynamics. Now, the payment portion that we'd love to help facilitate and manage for you, this is how it works. And it's probably the hardest concept to grab, I'll just be honest with you. So how it works is basically it's business as usual. Nothing is changing from your standpoint, meaning you go through, you select your payments in your accounting system just like you do today, but instead of pushing them to printer, 1, 2, 3, 4 in the corner, you basically push them back to us through a file. So basically you have that payment file that's coming back to us. We see that that payment file has been sent, and it kind of pings us in a way. And then we have a dedicated team of over 400 employees in Charlotte, North Carolina, with Henry and I, believe it or not, where this is what they're doing day in and day out. They are educating your suppliers on the benefits of receiving electronic payments, and then they're teeing that information up for a payment specialist to be able to make that payment to that supplier in the method that they choose. So we know how important your relationships are with your suppliers, so that's why we do it that way, is we want it to be the way the supplier would like, but also educating them on why they should receive electronic payments, because it's automated in a sense from a supplier standpoint to receive it electronically versus a check. They want to receive their payments faster. So when you send those payments back to us, you'll be able to come in at any point in time into your platform or your portal and see all your payments that went out, the status, which is most important to you. That's what you're going to care about, is where the status of the money is. And so you'll see the status real-time updating as our team is making those payments. And you'll see the method that it went out to the supplier. So you can see, oh, it looked like it went out as a check, or it went out as some kind of e-payment like an ACH. But what's great is that, this last role that we talked about, the CFO, they're going to want to know, I'm still in control of my money that's going out, right? So what we've done is we've incorporated something called pay control. And what this is it's basically a version of e-signing, if you will. So this is your electronic check signing. What they do is they receive another notification that they have a payment to approve, where they can come in and they can see, this payment was for these invoices. Yes, I go ahead and approve this one to be released, to be paid. This one, I want to look into more detail on what this invoice is for, who's approved it, kind of what, and maybe they want to hold it temporarily for a reason. But this is still giving them that control to be able to, and I'm using air quotes here, sign off on what's going out. So they don't feel like they're out of the loop by any means, and they have that control. Once they approve it at this step, then it would be technically released to our team to facilitate and manage those payments. Now, you're probably thinking, you probably have a lot of questions around the payment side, because that was honestly a very high level. I strongly encourage you, if you're interested, to request a demonstration from us. We're going to put up a poll to kind of see next steps, but I would love to give you guys kind of a deeper dive demonstration on really, what are the flow of funds, how this works specifically, how it would work, most importantly, in your environment, because that's what we do. We kind of consult you on, well, that's my job anyways, we consult you on how would this work for you specifically, not you having to change your process for us. So,
Shannon, excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you. We had a question. We got some good questions coming in. We'll get one of them a little later, but that one asked about, they wanted to know more about Avid Exchange. But Melissa asked about, we have some invoices that need to be coded as many as 50 GL lines. How currently they can upload them directly into Dynamics with an Excel spreadsheet. Is there an option to do that inside the Avid Exchange invoices for invoices like this?
There sure is. So same concept, you'd be able to upload, that's what I refer to as an allocation table. And so that's very common. We have some clients that have, believe it or not, thousands of lines of coding. So yes.
Well, excellent. Let's move on and wrap up here and summarize, and then we're going to take some more of your questions. We want to hear from you about what's your next step and do a quick poll question. Thank you. You want to learn more? And we're going to take more of your questions after you get done with this. Share my screen. Yeah, you might try again. You could try to share it with me again. I'm looking at the event center. And
so I am moving over control now.
You are now the presenter. It says I'm the presenter. I'm going to share my application.
And we'll just do a couple more seconds before we close out this last poll.
All right.
But we will not be sharing the results.
Okay. So, what do you see my screen? Yeah.
We do.
Okay,
yeah.
Great. Okay.
Yeah.
So the recap here is AvidXchange virtually gives you 100% of your invoices electronically. Whether they come to you, they come to us, they sent by email, fax, email, anyway, paper, we convert them, get them into your system, which gives you 100% data capture. As Shannon showed, we key that header information, 99% accuracy guaranteed. You do the final approval of that coding and upload it into your system as you saw, and you have the workflow which manages your approval process, gives improved visibility and control to everyone in your organization about where those invoices are, and then pass that AP data back into your system with no manual data entry. Now, you don't have to use our payments tool, but it is 80% of our customers use our payments engine because it's super cheap. We send out every check, whatever payment, for only 68 cents. Try to beat that. That's amazing. Why would you do it on your own? And so, like bar soap and batteries, paper is disappearing from accounts payable, and AvidXchange is making that possible. We want you to learn more. So we've developed what we call an ebook, which gives you the 4 AP automation success stories for Dynamics GP users specifically. If you want to take a look at that, that will help you understand and get more of the details of how our GP clients are using the tool. Just click on that link. And I take another question here that came in and want to know a little bit more about AvidXchange. As Shannon mentioned, we've been around for a long time. This year we will transact $65 billion in annual transaction volume. We've got 6,000 customers starting at the top. A lot of cool software and tools that's all web-based, nothing to install. We have a 45-day implementation guarantee. That's how long it takes, and we integrate to other accounting systems. So if you don't have Dynamics or have an older version, trust us, we work fine with those. Jason, do we have any other questions that should be answered?
At this point, why don't I make a last call for questions? I'm not seeing any others in the queue at this time other than the ones you've answered. The one that did come in was just asking for access to the recording and the PowerPoint deck, whether those will be shared. I know we are recording the event, obviously, and we'll be making that available. Do you have any preference or idea of how, if or how the slides will be available?
Yes, we're going to make the slides available to everyone. Thank you for asking about that. We want you to be able to see these materials. So I know that for all the participants, we'll be getting an email with an opportunity to download the slides. And here's that wonderful demonstration of Bob coding the invoice from his mobile phone. This has got to be the CFO's #1 favorite thing. He's sitting at the airport, you're at your daughter's volleyball game, and AP is at your fingertips. You no longer need to be at the office to take care of business. So thanks for joining us today. My name is Henry Imes. We've been joined by Shannon Lawson. We're from Avid Exchange in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we look forward to hearing more from you and your comments and questions. Thanks, Jason, for having us.
Yeah, Henry, Shannon, thanks so much for joining us, and thanks to everyone in the audience as well. We also have a very brief poll that'll pop up, survey that'll pop up after the session ends, just to get feedback on your experience today. We would really appreciate if you could take a couple seconds on that as well, for both for us at MS Dynamics World and for our presenters. We always appreciate that feedback. With that, we're going to conclude today's event. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.